Welcome to Rapid Fire Wednesday, Q&A for corporate immigration professionals. I'm Kimberley Robidoux, a partner in San Diego, and I'm joined by Miki Matrician, the co-managing partner of our Boston office. Hey, Miki, how are you?
Hi, Kim. Good. How are you?
Good. All right. So this past week, we heard about increased searches of electronic devices at the U.S. border, and we also received information about potential travel bans. So today, we will be discussing these developments and the impact that such border searches and travel bans will have on employers, employees, and immigration strategies to be enlisted by global mobility and HR professionals. All right, Nikki, let's start out with the recent information that we have received about a potential travel ban. Can you please tell us about this new development and any information that we have at this time?
Yes. So, one of the first executive orders that Trump signed on January 20th directed his cabinet to draft a list of countries that should face either full or partial travel restrictions because their method of vetting and screening information is so deficient, and that the cabinet members should complete this within 60 days. So, we are coming up on the 60 days, and the New York Times has reported that the administration will implement a travel ban that impacts about 43 countries. So the draft list was essentially broken up into three sections of red, orange, and yellow to denote the level of restriction that would be imposed. So the red list potentially includes 11 countries whose citizens would be entirely forbidden from entering the United States, and those include Afghanistan, Bhutan, Cuba, Iran, Libya, North Korea, Somalia, Sudan, Syria, Venezuela, and Yemen. The orange list of countries could include 10 countries whose citizens will be limited from entering the US, but they won't be entirely banned. And those countries include Belarus, Eritrea, Haiti, Laos, Myanmar, Pakistan, Russia, Sierra Leone, South Sudan, and Turkmenistan. So individuals from those countries will be required to appear for in-person interviews at a U.S. consular post abroad in order to get a visa. And then the yellow list of countries potentially has 22 countries that are primarily African nations. And these countries apparently will be given 60 days to address the administration's concerns over alleged deficiencies. And so, if these nations don't comply with addressing those deficiencies that haven't been defined yet, they risk being placed on the red or orange lists.
Mickey, I really appreciate it. I know we're all kind of waiting for that list of travel bans. And so we're expecting the additional information soon about when these travel bans might be implemented and what countries will be on the list. So putting travel bans aside for now, another issue that we want to discuss today is about the searches of electronic devices at the US border. So while these searches are not new, in light of the administration's focus on increased vetting, we wanted to address this topic with everyone so that employees and employers are aware of the actions that may be taken by U.S. Customs and Border Protection, referred to as CBP, and when an individual seeks admission to the United States, what they can expect from CBP. So, CBP has the authority to search electronic devices, which includes phones, laptops, tablets, and other electronic devices of anyone that is entering the US, and that includes US citizens and non citizens alike. So these searches can happen at the US land crossings, at airports, at seaports, and even at CBP pre-clearance locations abroad. Some of those locations are, the pre-flight inspections in Dublin or Toronto are some of the two that we see most often. And these searches of electronic devices at the border can occur without a warrant or any suspicion. So, Mickey, can you first tell everybody like what types of searches we're expecting or can be conducted by CBP?
Yeah, well, basic search is any border search of an electronic device that typically involves an officer reviewing the contents of the device manually without the assistance of an external equipment. And then there's the advanced search when a CBP officer connects external equipment to the device in order to access it and to review and copy or analyze the device contents. So, for that type of search, the CBP has to have a reasonable suspicion of a violation of law or national security concern, and it also requires pre-approval of a senior manager before doing that type of advanced search.
Good to know there's some parameters on those advanced searches. But with a basic search, Mickey, can an individual decline that CBP conduct that search?
Well, so at the border, individuals' rights are pretty limited, but there are some things that people can do to protect their data. And it's really important, not just for personal information, but for company information and documents as well. Just in general, if an individual refuses to provide access to the device, the device could be seized by CBP. Visa holders may be denied entry to the US if they refuse to provide access. And at pre clearance locations, this may result in the foreign national being refused boarding on the plane. And US citizens can refuse to answer questions beyond the identity and travel details, though this may also cause delays, even though they will not be denied entry.
Okay. So interesting stuff. So what are some tips that you recommend, individuals do to prepare for searches of electronic devices?
Yeah, so we recommend that global mobility and immigration professionals work with their internal tech team to create protocols and communicate protocols to employees so that they can protect themselves in the company during travel, especially if that travel is for business purposes. The first recommendation is to travel light. I mean, that means carrying really only necessary devices and consider using dedicated travel devices with minimal personal and corporate data. Employees should securely delete files. Don't just put them into the trash or recycling bin on their device. They should be securely deleted. And then, in addition, it might be best to leave their usual phone at home and get a temporary phone and then transfer the SIM card or obtain a new number at the destination. So, those are things to consider. And then individuals should also power down their devices completely before going to the US border so that they can protect against potential remote access attacks and data interception. If the laptop is confiscated and then later returned to the traveler, it should be booted using an external hard drive, and a thorough scan should be performed for any unauthorized software or changes. And then finally, try to limit cloud access. Specifically, the border search will only examine information or should only examine information on the device at the time of the search and can't access information that are stored on the cloud. So travelers should sign out of their sensitive apps, disable automatic logins, and consider removing apps that store personal and company data. And additionally, travelers should consider using a VPN for electronic devices.
So some great tips there, Mickey, for all of us, that are traveling, regardless of it's at, entering the US or even another country, right? Some good things to keep in mind. So for someone who is coming to the United States and they're at the US border, how should people deal with CBP when CBP officer requests their devices for a search? What are some tips?
Yeah, always be honest and never ever lie to CBP officers. It's also important just to remain calm and don't argue or be contentious. Don't interfere with an inspection. And then, most importantly, know that CBP does have the authority to physically inspect those electronic devices. So, even though an individual is not required to provide passwords, refusing to do that might result in possible consequences like getting your device seized or being denied entry.
Great. Thanks, Mickey. That's really helpful and a lot of things for, HR and global mobility to think about in coordination with their tech teams and to communicate to employees that are traveling. With that, that's a wrap for today's session. Stay tuned for future episodes on updates to the immigration landscape in the US. And if you don't already, please follow us on our LinkedIn page for WR Immigration, as well as our individual profiles. And we also transcribe each and every episode and post it to a weekly newsletter that you can subscribe to. The link to subscribe will be in the video description. So until next week, great to see you, Mickey.
Good to see you, Kim.